The Lily of the Valley. Author: Honore de Balzac. Translator: Catherine Prescott Wormeley. Release date: December, 1998. E-text number 1569. Posting date: February 26, 2010. Last updated: November 22, 2016. Language: English. Character set encoding: UTF-8. Excerption: To Monsieur le Vicomte Felix de Vandenesse. What happiness for me, dear friend, to gather the scattered elements of my experience that I may arm you against the dangers of the world, through which I pray that you pass scatheless. I have felt the highest pleasures of maternal love as night after night I have thought of these things. While writing this letter, sentence by sentence, projecting my thoughts into the life you are about to lead, I went often to my window. Looking at the towers of Frapesle, visible in the moonlight, I said to myself, he sleeps, I wake for him. Delightful feelings, which recall the happiest of my life, when I watched Jacques sleeping in his cradle and waited till he wakened, to feed him with my milk. You are the man-child whose soul must now be strengthened by precepts never taught in schools, but which we women have the privilege of inculcating. These precepts will influence your success. They prepare the way for it, they will secure it. Am I not exercising a spiritual motherhood in giving you a standard by which to judge the actions of your life? A motherhood comprehended, is it not, by the child? Dear Felix, let me, even though I may make a few mistakes, let me give to our friendship a proof of the disinterestedness which sanctifies it. In yielding you to the world I am renouncing you. But I love you too well not to sacrifice my happiness to your welfare. For the last 4 months you have made me reflect deeply on the laws and customs which regulate our epoch. The conversations I have had with my aunt, well known to you who have replaced her. The events of Monsieur de Mortsauf's life, which he has told me. The tales related by my father, to whom society and the court are familiar in their greatest as well as in their smallest aspects. All these have risen in my memory for the benefit of my adopted child at the moment when he is about to be launched, well nigh alone, among men. About to act without adviser in a world where many are wrecked by their own best qualities thoughtlessly displayed, while others succeed through a judicious use of their worst. I ask you to ponder this statement of my opinion of society as a whole. It is concise, for to you a few words are sufficient. I do not know whether societies are of divine origin or whether they were invented by man. I am equally ignorant of the direction in which they tend. What I do know certainly is the fact of their existence. No sooner therefore do you enter society, instead of living a life apart, than you are bound to consider its conditions binding. A contract is signed between you. Does society in these days gain more from a man than it returns to him? I think so. But as to whether the individual man finds more cost than profit, or buys too dear the advantages he obtains, concerns the legislator only. I have nothing to say to that. In my judgment you are bound to obey in all things the general law, without discussion, whether it injures or benefits your personal interests. This principle may seem to you a very simple one, but it is difficult of application. It is like sap, which must infiltrate the smallest of the capillary tubes to stir the tree, renew its verdure, develop its flowers, and ripen fruit. Dear, the laws of society are not all written in a book. Manners and customs create laws, the more important of which are often the least known. Believe me, there are neither teachers, nor schools, nor textbooks for the laws that are now to regulate your actions, your language, your visible life, the manner of your presentation to the world, and your quest of fortune. Neglect those secret laws or fail to understand them, and you stay at the foot of the social system instead of looking down upon it. Even though this letter may seem to you diffuse, telling you much that you have already thought, let me confide to you a woman's ethics. To explain society on the theory of individual happiness adroitly won at the cost of the greater number is a monstrous doctrine. which in its strict application leads men to believe that all they can secretly lay hold of before the law or society or other individuals condemn it as a wrong is honestly and fairly theirs. Once admit that claim and the clever thief goes free. The woman who violates her marriage vow without the knowledge of the world is virtuous and happy. Kill a man, leaving no proof for justice, and if, like Macbeth, you win a crown you have done wisely. Your selfish interests become the higher law. The only question then is how to evade, without witnesses or proof, the obstacles which law and morality place between you and your self-indulgence. To those who hold this view of society, the problem of making their fortune, my dear friend, resolves itself into playing a game where the stakes are millions or the galleys, political triumphs or dishonor. Still, the green cloth is not long enough for all the players, and a certain kind of genius is required to play the game. I say nothing of religious beliefs, nor yet of feelings. What concerns us now is the running gear of the great machine of gold and iron, and its practical results with which men's lives are occupied. Dear child of my heart, if you share my horror at this criminal theory of the world, society will present to your mind, as it does to all sane minds, the opposite theory of duty. Yes, you will see that man owes himself to man in 1,000 differing ways. To my mind, the duke and peer owe far more to the workman and the pauper than the pauper and the workman owe to the duke. The obligations of duty enlarge in proportion to the benefits which society bestows on men. In accordance with the maxim, as true in social politics as in business, that the burden of care and vigilance is everywhere in proportion to profits. Each man pays his debt in his own way. When our poor toiler at the retière comes home weary with his day's work, has he not done his duty? Assuredly he has done it better than many in the ranks above him. If you take this view of society, in which you are about to seek a place in keeping with your intellect and your faculties, you must set before you as a generating principle and mainspring, this maxim. Never permit yourself to act against either your own conscience or the public conscience. Though my entreaty may seem to you superfluous, yet I entreat, yes, your Henriette implores you to ponder the meaning of that rule. It seems simple but, dear, it means that integrity, loyalty, honor, and courtesy are the safest and surest instruments for your success. In this selfish world you will find many to tell you that a man cannot make his way by sentiments, that too much respect for moral considerations will hinder his advance. It is not so. You will see men ill-trained, ill-taught, incapable of measuring the future, who are rough to a child, rude to an old woman, unwilling to be irked by some worthy old man on the ground that they can do nothing for him. Later, you will find the same men caught by the thorns which they might have rendered pointless, and missing their triumph for some trivial reason. Whereas the man who is early trained to a sense of duty does not meet the same obstacles. He may attain success less rapidly, but when attained it is solid and does not crumble like that of others. When I show you that the application of this doctrine demands in the first place a mastery of the science of manners, you may think my jurisprudence has a flavor of the court and of the training I received as a lean-on court. My dear friend, I do attach great importance to that training, trifling as it seems. You will find that the habits of the great world are as important to you as the wide and varied knowledge that you possess. Often they take the place of such knowledge. For some really ignorant men, born with natural gifts and accustomed to give connection to their ideas, have been known to attain a grandeur never reached by others far more worthy of it. I have studied you thoroughly, Felix, wishing to know if your education, derived wholly from schools, has injured your nature. God knows the joy with which I find you fit for that further education of which I speak. The manners of many who are brought up in the traditions of the great world are purely external. True politeness, perfect manners, come from the heart, and from a deep sense of personal dignity. This is why some men of noble birth are, in spite of their training, ill-mannered, while others, among the middle classes, have instinctive good taste and only need a few lessons to give them excellent manners without any signs of awkward imitation. Believe a poor woman who no longer leaves her valley when she tells you that this dignity of tone, this courteous simplicity in words, in gesture, in bearing, and even in the character of the home, is a living and material poem, the charm of which is irresistible. Imagine therefore what it is when it takes its inspiration from the heart. Politeness, dear, consists in seeming to forget ourselves for others. With many it is social cant, laid aside when personal self-interest shows its cloven foot. A noble then becomes ignoble. But and this is what I want you to practice, Felix. True politeness involves a Christian principle. It is the flower of love, it requires that we forget ourselves really. In memory of your Henriette, for her sake, be not a fountain without water, have the essence and the form of true courtesy. Never fear to be the dupe and victim of this social virtue. You will some day gather the fruit of seeds scattered apparently to the winds. My father used to say that one of the great offences of sham politeness was the neglect of promises. When anything is demanded of you that you cannot do, refuse positively and leave no loopholes for false hopes. On the other hand, grant at once whatever you are willing to bestow. Your prompt refusal will make you friends as well as your prompt benefit, and your character will stand the higher. For it is hard to say whether a promise forgotten, a hope deceived does not make us more enemies than a favor granted brings us friends. Dear friend, there are certain little matters on which I may dwell, for I know them, and it comes within my province to impart them. Be not too confiding, nor frivolous, nor over-enthusiastic, 3 rocks on which youth often strikes. Too confiding a nature loses respect, frivolity brings contempt, and others take advantage of excessive enthusiasm. In the first place, Felix, you will never have more than 2 or 3 friends in the course of your life. Your entire confidence is their right, to give it to many is to betray your real friends. If you